Moving on to our next email question, and it comes to us from Rennie. And Rennie wants to know, I have medical bills from a wreck that was not my fault. The other driver's insurance company sent me a check, but my friend said that I should talk to a lawyer before I do anything else. Won't that just make things or worse or make it longer or a longer process and cost me more money that I don't have? So Remy wants you to convince them that that's the right thing to do. All right, attorneys, start
All right.
convincing.
Well, Rennie, let me tell you this. Certainly, you have a right to not hire an attorney. And sometimes people think maybe they're saving money by doing that. But unless you're up to speed on all the different types of insurance coverage, and you mentioned the person at fault was writing you a check and should you cash it or not. We already talked about what happens if you sign a release earlier in the show. Your claim is gone forever. Let's talk about the other issue. Have you explored your own insurance coverage? Because you may have uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage that could be tens, thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars over and above, say, the $25,000 of the person that caused the wreck. And unless you're familiar and experienced with the ins and outs of coverage, like Harry and I are, and like our firm is, and like Tim and Patrick's firm are, you could be leaving money on the table that your own insurance company would be willing to pay you like that in some situations that would help you with your medical bills and your pain and suffering and the fact that you might not be able to work for the rest of your life because you didn't want to take the chance in talking to a lawyer when it doesn't cost anything to talk to a lawyer. Doesn't mean you have to hire us, but at the very least, pick up the phone and call us because we may say, well, what kind of coverage do you have? Let me look at your policy and say, hey, there's another $100,000 that we could go after. So you don't want to outsmart yourself by trying to save a few pennies. That's always been my position on that.
Okay. Well, can you quickly define contingency fees for everyone that might be listening?
Sure. A contingency fee contract is where you don't pay any money to the lawyer up front. They agree to take your case. We are allowed to pay your reasonable litigation expenses, not just cash to you, but to do things like depositions and order medical records and get experts retained. And then if we win the case, we are allowed to take the agreed upon percentage, usually around 35%. And then you're allowed to take the rest and we pay your medical bills out of that too. It's pretty standard. And that's what most plaintiffs' attorneys do.
Okay. All right. Harry, any thoughts on it?
Well, I was just going to say, and Rocky made a good point, if you're not really savvy with insurance or insurance coverages or how they work, I mean, even if you know that you have uninsured or uninsured motorist coverage, you still need to get the liability part settled correctly because you need what's called a waiver to even go on your uninsured motorist coverage. So you could, like Rocky said, be leaving money on the table just because you're not savvy enough or don't know how the system works.